Hey everyone, this is Ricky Williams of the Ricky C. Williams podcast, the number one anger management podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every one of you that came back to listen, learn, and grow. Now, this episode is about the Karina's bill. This bill would help many victims of domestic abuse. So, don't skip this one as we explore the details of these cases, the broader implications for our society, and what can be done to combat domestic abuse. And today is going to be very special. We're also going to talk about one of my old clients, a case that resonates closely with the Karina's bill. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Ricky C. Williams podcast, where we delve deep into the complex world of anger. And in each episode, we explore what triggers it, how it affects our lives, and most importantly, how we can manage it. Today, we're diving into this pressing issue, the alarming rise in domestic violence, deaths in Illinois, and an urgent call for the passage of the Karina's bill. Last year, Illinois saw a staggering 110% increase in domestic violence deaths, a stark reminder of the need for stricter regulations on abusers possessing firearms. Now, let's think about that. A lot of people, I guess a few bills have been passed that stated that felons should be able to possess weapons, firearms. Now, I do believe that anyone should be able to protect their home and their property. But I do have issue with the fact that if a person who's been abused still lives in that home, I don't believe a weapon should be there. I do believe that if two people are dating and they live in separate places, I think everyone should be able to protect their home and their property. I do believe that. Some people may not. You may want to email me or leave a comment about my position on that, whether I'm right or wrong, and how you feel about that. But right now, let's focus on how this law or this bill that should be passed because of this increase in domestic violence. The spike highlights the critical necessity for legislative actions to protect vulnerable individuals from preventable homicides. Vickie Smith, former executive director and consultant for the Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence, emphasized the gravity of the situation. She stated that this increase really shows that we have to step up our efforts here in Illinois to reduce these preventative homicides. Because if they're increasing that much just over 1 year, then what are we looking at over the next few years? That's actual factual. What are we looking at if those people who have shown that they are violent and they continue to have weapons in their home, it will increase 110% in 1 year? That's crazy. That speaks volumes to people who are in abused relationships. And a lot of times people may ask, why don't they just leave? One thing I've learned over my years of teaching anger management is the fact that many people can't leave because the abuser controlled their finances or they isolated them from their family and friends. It's not just as simple as I'm just going to walk away. And some people feel embarrassed to talk about the fact that they've been abused. And this is both men and women. A lot of men are also afraid or feel embarrassed to talk about them being abused. So let's not just say like it shouldn't spike, people should leave. Let's use empathy as well as grace when we talk about victims of abuse. But as we continue on, the coalition annual report, typically released in October, was published early due to alarming findings. The report revealed 94 incidents of domestic abuse resulted in 120 deaths last year, a sharp rise from 2022 of 45 incidents and 57 deaths. Of the 120, 107 were homicides and 13 were suicides by the alleged abuser. Intimate partners were the victims in about half of these cases, with the remainder being relatives or children. I have to pause on this because there are so many children that are dying, some in homes where the boyfriend or the girlfriend lives within the home, where the uncle or the aunt who just got out of prison lives in the home. There have been home invasions because someone had another lover on the side. So many situations that has taken place that we need to really, really, as a society, take a step back and really look at what's going on with, number one, our loved ones, and number two, our love life. Do not, do not, do not place anyone within a situation to where they have to worry about someone else. I personally was in a situation where this young lady felt that there'd be no ramifications or issues that she's sleeping with a married man. And yes, it is, because something could have happened terribly. So there's so many incidences that could happen. Someone could have shot through a window and hit a child and killed the child, a scorned lover. Again, these situations, and it happens so often that I don't want to say it becomes the norm, but that's what is happening. So getting back to this story, Smith highlighted the broader danger posed by such violence. What that says is that if someone has decided that they're going to use some means to take out their partner or ex-partner, a lot of other people are also in danger, she explained. The report found that firearms were used 68% of the times of these deaths and 49% from the previous year. It's up. It went up from a 68% up from 49%. So that's a 19% increase. Smith also pointed out the critical issues of gun access in domestic violence situations. If there's any domestic violence occurring, whether it's physical violence or emotional violence or financial exploitation, and there are guns, there's always a potential for domestic violence homicide. Smith and other advocates are urging lawmakers to act on legislation aimed to removing firearms from abusers. Karina's bill, named after Karina Gonzalez, who was tragically killed along with her 15-year-old daughter by her husband, despite having an order of protection, is at the forefront of this push. The bill would require law enforcement to promptly remove firearms while serving a judge-ordered protection order. Current laws allow survivors to request the removal of firearms when seeking protection orders, but enforcement has been inconsistent. A lot of times they take the FOID card, but they don't get the guns. Under the Karina's bill, a judge would issue a search warrant alongside the order of protection, giving law enforcement 96 hours to seize the weapons. Gonzalez family, along with the advocates and lawmakers, have been passionately advocating for the bill's passage. It's encouraging and utterly devastating to think that if adequate policy would have been in place, Karina and Daniela could possibly still be here today. The bill, part of the broader firearms safety package, has passed the House but stalled in the Senate, partly due to awaiting a Supreme Court decision on firearms and domestic violence. The court ruled that the government can prohibit individuals with domestic violence restraining orders from possessing firearms, clearing a major hurdle for the bill. Senate President Don Harmon expressed optimism following the rule, stating, "We are waiting on the Supreme Court decision, and they surprised me in saying we can, in fact, regulate at the intersection of guns and domestic violence, and we need to." Despite the progress, the bill faces opposition from law enforcement groups concerned about resource allocations. Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly highlighted the need for budget stability to enforce Karina's bill effectively, relying heavily on local police and sheriff's departments. Now, I want to stop here to say, let's never defund the police because we need them. We need them in, oh my goodness, in a great way. I always advocate for police officers. Some of my closest friends are police officers. Some of my fraternity brothers, my sorority sisters are police officers, and they risk their lives every day. And they need the manpower to come in and say, hey, let me take this weapon from you. Now, again, I believe if the person has been found guilty of domestic abuse, yes, take the weapon. If the person has never been found guilty of domestic abuse, I still think he needs to protect his home. So the Senator, Selena Villanova, a sponsor of the bill, remains hopeful. There is a considerable amount of support in our favor, but there's still work that needs to be done. And I am hopeful that we'll be able to pass measures to severely decrease domestic violence deaths involving firearms. And I side with Senator Selena Villanova. We definitely need to support those who are actually being in an abusive relationship, whether man or woman. Everyone needs to be protected. Everyone. So hopefully this bill pass. But the issue is a critical step in protecting lives and in ensuring justice for victims like Karina and her daughter. Let's hope these lawmakers act swiftly and decisively to bring about the change needed to prevent this. So, the second portion of the story that I want to talk to you about, which reminds me of this Karina's Law, is one of my older clients around 6 or 7 years ago, where she came into the office talking about her ex boyfriend. Now, she talked about how she was the one who was the aggressor. She was starting an argument because she felt as if she wasn't being heard by him. She started to emasculate him. And then when he didn't respond, she hit him. And they were at his mother's home, and she began to yell, scream, then hit. He retaliated, something that he's never done before, and they were together for a year. He hit her. Now, some people would say, oh, well, he's the villain because he hit her, and would disregard the fact that she verbally abused him and then physically abused him. So when we had our one-on-one coaching session, we had to discuss where did her anger come from. Because she also tried to pick up a knife and stab him. That in and of itself made her the villain. Because when she came to me in the beginning, she spoke about how, oh, woe is me, he hit me. And then when we continued to talk, it was, I verbally abused him, I hit him, I grabbed a weapon. The law that will hopefully be passed in Chicago reminded me of a situation to where men can be victims as well. Yes, we're stronger. Yes, we can take a hit, but we should not have to take a hit. Now, when they said homicides in the article, not everyone was man on woman. And let's keep that in mind. Women can be violent as well. Women can hit you, scratch you, call the cops, and you're still afraid. You can go to jail. I say this to say is that in this society, I do believe that violators should not have weapons. But I also remember cases and people coming to my coaching classes, court ordered, of course, that women attack the men. And I don't want this to be a man versus woman conversation. I want this to be a person versus person conversation. I want when people see the situation where it's like, well, this is the bill, and it's a woman who was killed by her husband. There are also men who are killed by their wives or girlfriends. They have many cases where women will go to a new lover and say that the old or the ex abused her, and then that man would come and harm or kill the ex without knowing what happened. There's so many situations, and I just want to say, let's take our time and understand the bill that it's about people that are getting hurt. I am not taking away from Karina. I am saying that both men and women are in the grave because of their partners being angry. And we have to learn how to understand anger, how to calm down in stressful situations. So I understand the bill. I agree 1,000%. I just don't want it to make it seem as if it's men who are the only ones that are the villains in their story. It isn't always the case. 4 out of every 5 women are abused, but 3 out of every 5 men are also abused. And most men don't say anything, so it could be higher. So as a people, let's use empathy and grace when it comes to arguments. I would love for the police to learn how to do proper investigation to see what actually happened. In a lot of cases, a lot of men were probably defending themselves. A lot of women were probably defending themselves. Let's just try not to be in situations where we have to defend ourselves. I'm Ricky Williams. I want to thank you for listening. You didn't have to be here. You did not have to take the time to listen to me. I want to say thank you very much. And if you have someone else that you know are in a domestic abuse situation, please reach out to me. You can send an email at info@rickycwilliams.com, Or if you want a private call, you can go to rickycwilliams.com/blog. And on any post at the end of each show notes, you can click a button to have a private phone call so you can get the help that you need. So until the next time, I'm Ricky C. Williams, urging you to stay informed and stay engaged. Now, GBG, go be great.